the much anticipated first game of Xabi Alonso at Real Madrid. We've seen it now. If you count this as a professional match, it is by the most basic definition of it. But let's be a little bit honest with ourselves about this Club World Cup. And I posted a community post, or whatever it's called now on YouTube. I hope at one point it was called community post, because otherwise I sound a bit mental. In sort of covering Club World Cup matches, and I have tried. I've given the competition a fair chance. I wasn't going to be one of those people that just rubbished it without really giving it the opportunity to see if it could work. It's been a bit of a rough watch, innit? Let's be honest with ourselves. It's been a tough tournament to try and give a chance to. A lack of intensity, a lack of care from the players. I think higher ups in clubs will want success in this tournament because of the financial benefits, and I think managers will as well. Players, I just don't look at them and think that these are players, especially at the higher level. You're speaking of the likes of Real Madrid, you're speaking of the likes of Man City and blah, blah, blah. They don't want this. They can't after a long, busy season. And it feels like since the COVID lockdown, we've done nothing but watch football. It doesn't feel like we've had a real break. South American teams have taken it seriously, and they've been the one saving grace of this tournament. I've really, really enjoyed them. And if you want me to cover those teams and those games, I happily will. I'll probably cover the Botafogo PSG game in tomorrow's video, just because of the upset that happened there. But those have been the one saving grace in this tournament. Other than that, it's been a struggle, and it's given all those naysayers the perfect backup to the ammunition they were shooting off with before the tournament. But as I just said, the one intrigue in this game is it's Xabi Alonso's first game as Real Madrid manager, and so while we may not see a high level of competitiveness in terms of the nature of the competition, it feels a bit like glorified pre-season friendly. We at least get an insight into what Xabi Alonso is trying to do, or at least wants to do. But we've gotten the first glimpse, and it was an interesting one. I feel like I should just dive into it right now, shouldn't I? Now, it's harder to tell what Xabi Alonso wants in the build-up phases for Real Madrid, as they weren't in them a lot. Al-Hilal dropped off a bit, allowed Real Madrid to build up and get up the pitch into their main attacking phase. The odd time they did build up in these areas, though, Courtois was an integral part of it. And I thought Courtois' ability as a sweeper-keeper improved greatly as Ancelotti's reign went on that second time. And it looks like that improvement's going to need to maintain at least that level, if not improve, in the Xabi Alonso era, as he was used greatly in these areas. And against teams in Europe, against teams in the Spanish League, where Real Madrid will get pressed later on in this tournament, I guess we'll be able to see a real good example of it if they play a team of the higher European level, which you think they would. And we'll see how crucial this part is. But Courtois looks like he'll be a huge part of the build-up, even to the point where he'll have to take the ball out of the box and split the centre-back pairing. Now, one of the big things that I feel like we were speaking about and theorising when it came to Xabi Alonso as Real Madrid manager was who could be the main focus of this Real Madrid build-up. Trent is the main focus, and it feels like this entire team is sort of responsive to his movements and to his actions, especially on that right-hand side with Valverde, because they would initially start, as you can see here, in the 4-1-3-3. I've said far too many players there. 4-3-3. And he would move from the right back into the double pivot position, then the back three would form, as you can see here. I can't imagine Fran Garcia is going to be the preferred option in that left back, left centre back role, as he is a attacking left wing back. His greatest quality is his athleticism and his pace. So I don't see that work, and I don't think he's maybe got the skills and possession as well to occupy that left centre-back role. Could explain why they're in for Carreras, who has played that role excellently for Benfica. But Tchouaméni is the pivot as well. Trent could move in alongside him, or he could move high up into the attacking midfield position, allowing Valverde to drop in this deeper midfield position. The issue is the balance, and I saw Football Made Simple's video yesterday about this, and he made a very good point, in that because Al-Hilal blocked off the centre of the pitch, as you can see here, Neves and Desari, I realise there's two Desaris, I did check, they are brothers, I maybe should have put the first initial on them, but they're different numbered. The central midfielder Desari, locking off those two attacking midfielders or those two centre mids, you'd get the winger Desari and Malcolm tucking in as well to really congest that centre area, with Milinkovic, Savic and Leonardo blocking in the pivots, or the pivot depending on the formation. And so what it meant was that Vinny and Rodrigo would have to show for the ball deeper and look for it quickly from the deeper areas. And Huijsen and Asensio are two players that have fantastic long-range passing capabilities, so they could switch the play really well into these areas to get the ball to these two wingers. I have to say, I thought Cancelo and Renan Lodi, and this is definitely down to the intelligence of Simone and Inzaghi, read these long switches fantastically. Really alert, even when there was space on the opposite side, they were just always aware of that and looking to cover as quickly as they could. All part of the game plan for Al-Hilal: block off the centre, protect the width. And they did it excellently. But the issue with going out to Rodrigo in this area when he has to drop deep is you need that player attacking the half space. Valverde did it when he was higher up in these positions excellently. Bellingham, the odd time he came over to this side, or with Vinny Jr., attacked it superbly. That is not what you will get from Trent. He is not an overlapper, which is why when people are calling for him to play as a wing-back in a back five, I don't get it for two reasons. One, I don't think you've watched Trent if you think his qualities are that of a overlapping right wing back in a back three. And two, as you can see here, they're looking to play in a back three in possession anyway. So what are you really asking for, to be honest with you? I don't quite get it. The only thing that would change is Trent's positioning, and you're putting him in a position that he's good. He's obviously got a fantastic cross, but he's not the athlete that you want from a wing back. He's not going to do that. It was too easy for Rodrigo to be doubled up on. And I think what maybe Xabi Alonso was hoping for, that Trent could find the ball in these positions, turn, and as he looked to turn, Rodrigo could get on his bike into this position, maybe taking on Renan Lodi down the line towards the byline where he could get into a crossing opportunity for Garcia or Vinicius Jr. at the far post. It wasn't. As I say, Al-Hilal blocked him off. There was no real central progression. As I said, Housen and Asensio are fantastic long-range progressors. They can get the ball to the wide area as well. But you can read long balls. No matter how good the long ball is, a good defensive unit can read that. If you don't have progression through your main pivot, you're fucked. It's as simple as that. You're fucked. And I just don't think he did enough to make subtle little movements to show for the ball. And I don't think he's amazing on the half turn. I think he's a really good passer against defences that give him the opportunity to have the ball deep, really deep. If he's dropping into the defensive line, he's done it for France a bit. But against teams that are going to try and restrict space for him to play in, that's not his best quality at all. And so as a result, these central players, this box midfield, couldn't get the joy on the ball. As the game wore on, they started moving into a bit more of a diamond with Trent in this position. Maybe Valverde as the attacking mid and Tchouaméni as the sole pivot, trying to outnumber that deeper midfield too and draw the wingers away from doubling up on the likes of Vinicius and Rodrigo. Also, I thought Gonzalo Garcia, which is the most Spanish name ever, I thought he was excellent, and I dare I say it, think there's a touch of the Benzema about him. I think his ability to drop in and combine with the fluidity that the attacking three provide and pull centre-backs away, pull players away that can create movement for the likes of Valverde, for the likes of Bellingham, maybe even for the out-to-in runs of Vinicius Jr. and Rodrigo, is key. I actually think he's a very intelligent player, Garcia, for his age. I know he broke through a bit towards the tail end of last season, and obviously he's not going to be first name on the team sheet, but there's a player there. For half-time substitution was made where Asensio went off for Arda Güler. As a result, this pushed Tchouaméni into the centre-back position, it pushed Valverde into more of the pivot, and Güler was up there with, I've swapped them around, and Güler was up there with Trent and Bellingham in these areas. And it improved tenfold in deeper build-up areas, in the more progressive areas. It was a great use of Güler's qualities. Whether this new role for Xabi Alonso could be one of his successes with this team was excellent. His ability to move into the defensive line to receive the ball in these areas, stretching it, making it a back four, spreading Tchouaméni, spreading whoever, allowed as well Trent more time and space on the ball because it would bring maybe Desari up to him or bring one of the front two up to create space in between the lines that Trent could move into to receive the ball as well, with Garcia and Valverde taking advantage of these opportunities in finding space that Güler had created. And his ability to then lay the ball off and not just admire what he'd done, but to move into position. Let's say if Desari had brought the ball over, he'd carry his run on into this position to receive it back and use his ultra-technical ability to provide a greater threat. Then if it got into a position out wide where the ball could go into the box, he'd make those movements into the box. It was a really good second half display, and one I'm looking forward to seeing develop more. I also thought Valverde as the pivot, making more movements to receive the ball, giving the centre-backs an option to play out with instead of the static positioning of Tchouaméni. Just improved the overall balance of the team. And I felt like the diamond was in more effect as well than the box midfield in the second half, with Güler taking up positions that could really open up the opposition's shape. And they did find it hard to deal with Al-Hilal. just as the second half went on and substitutions were being made and Real Madrid ended up with a bit of a different team, you just maybe didn't see the cohesion to create the clear chances. And to be fair, Al-Hilal defended fantastically. Reputation, I feel like, has taken a battering since the Champions League. He's still a top-class coach, make no mistake about it. Shame he's gone to the Saudi League, but it is what it is. It's life-changing money. But how did Real Madrid line up defensively? Now, initially, Real Madrid would look to press high, and I felt like they had to adapt really quickly as the game wore on. And the reason for that is because of the threat that Al-Hilal posed. I know we'll look at the Saudi League and sneer at it, but there is still some quality in this team. And what they would look to do is sucker the front two and Bellingham and Garcia onto the centre-backs, Tchouameni and Valverde back in the press onto the pivots, while Rodrigo and Vinicius would track the fullbacks. We'll cover why that wasn't that good in a minute, but I'm pretty sure you can work out why if you've ever seen Real Madrid play before. And what this then allowed Al-Hilal to do was go direct, and Milinkovic-Savic was the direct threat, especially in those opening 10-15 minutes, because his ability to win the aerial duels, it's very Fellaini-like, and I know we sneer at that profile, but it works. It's hard to deal with. It's not easy on the eye, it's not gonna, get on a Twitter comp and make everyone horny, but it's effective. And he had a level of freedom, Milinkovic-Savic, to take positions against sort of weaker areas of this Real Madrid line. So while the front three would position themselves as you would expect, Milinkovic could move up to the direction of the ball and he could double up on certain areas. So one tactic he got a bit of success was going on to Garcia, pulling into an area where Garcia would have to come and challenge for the aerial ball. There's an absolute difference in size. And he could win these knock-ons to get Malcolm down the right wing. The one quality that Real Madrid have in this back four is athleticism. And Howson and Asensio especially are fantastic on a high line, and it felt like when the ball did go in behind, when the movements of the likes of Leonardo and Malcolm were a threat, they covered themselves well in terms of recovering and getting into position until Asensio just decided to throw someone to the ground in the box for no real good reason. But Madrid had to adapt, and what they did was by having Tchouameni stick a lot deeper on Milinkovic-Savic as the game went on, and meaning that the back four could stay in their shape and Tchouameni could challenge Milinkovic-Savic. Now, he didn't have a lot of success, but what it did mean is that Real Madrid didn't suffer and were exposed every time that he challenged for the ball. And it meant that they had to adapt a little bit more. Bellingham would drop onto Neves in this pivot area here, and Garcia would sort of do the pressing work on the back two, which he did a decent job of, to be fair. He did as good as he could. The biggest issue was the fullbacks. And now Al-Hilal's game plan was pretty simple the more they moved on to into a more progressive phase. Malcolm and Desari on the wings would tuck in pretty narrow alongside Leonardo, dragging the fullbacks with him, Garcia and Trent, into these areas, so it created space on the width. Neves would start dropping in between the two centre-backs, so it would drag either Bellingham or Valverde with him, maybe even both if Bellingham had gone off to press the centre-back in this area here, meaning that Rodrigo would perhaps have to cover inside a little bit, or Garcia would have to drop in, and this definitely did happen a lot more. And how it adapted is something I'll explain in a second, but Neves would drop in between the two centre-backs, get on the ball, and we know how good from his time at Wolves Neves is. He's a fantastic playmaker from deeper areas. And what this allowed was Cancelo moving forward, Renan Lodi, and then Milinkovic-Savic would drop a little bit deeper to form a double pivot with Desari. Tchouameni could come back in as well. And so it would look a little bit more orthodox from a Real Madrid perspective. Cancelo and Renan Lodi got free of their winger markers quite a lot. Rodrigo wasn't as bad, and we'll cover that a bit more because there's a bit more devil in the detail there. But Vinicius Jr., again, it's kind of a glorified pre-season friendly at this point. But it's not good enough, is it? I know he's a player blessed with insane quality, which we didn't really see, by the way. I don't think he's suited being that touchline left winger at all in the Xabi Alonso system, and I think Vinicius Jr. could be a loser in it. And as a result, that could mean that Xabi Alonso loses out, because your ability as a coach is defined on how you get the best out of your best players. And we know Vinicius Jr.'s class. We know he's world class. But you've got to do more. You got to do more. If there's one thing we've learned from PSG this season, it's the importance of working as a team, and individual quality should not override that. And Cancelo was getting free, Lodi was getting free, Rodrigo not doing enough at points as well, but I could give him a little bit of a blind because with Neves dropping him, he tucked in a little bit more, he had to come in a little bit more narrow to try and block the centre. So it's a little bit more forgivable. And as a result, Trent would get overloaded down this left-hand side, Garcia on the right-hand side dealing with full-back and winger. And it was really hard for Real Madrid to deal with in the more attacking phases. They were 4-on-5 in that final line. It allowed Al-Hilal to get a real good foothold in the game and establish a bit of dominance in the first half. He did adapt, and that adaptation was with Rodrigo sort of tracking back into more of a back five position. His starting position was a little bit deeper, and he wouldn't get pulled into the high press. It meant that Real Madrid could cover the width of the pitch and go man-to-man. Trent could move inside, so he wasn't as exposed on the right. And Garcia would drop into that sort of right-wing position, right midfield, right wing, by sticking on Koulibaly anyway. Bellingham would drop in a little bit deeper, and what this meant was that Vinicius Jr. could sort of come into the central area and stay on the centre backs. He wasn't going to press, but at least you're not going to lose anything when he fails to track a runner. So, it felt a little bit more balanced. Tchouaméni, Valverde and Bellingham sort of performing that midfield three job, and they all three did a really good job in these defensive phases. There wasn't a lot of central progression for Al-Hilal, but that's kind of part of the game plan as well. And one thing this did enable them to have, so if I drop this a little bit deeper into a main defensive phase, is, as you can see here with Garcia dropping in a little bit more, he'd fill gaps in this midfield three. He'd work very hard. But when Real Madrid did win the ball, they had an outlet in Vinicius Jr. to use as their direct threat. And it still feels like Real Madrid's greatest weapon is transition, using the individual quality of the players they have on the break. I thought Garcia and his movement and his dropping in and connecting play was fantastic. He earned his goal through getting the ball, laying it off to the likes of Valverde, to the likes of Bellingham and Rodrigo to counter-attack with. Vinny Jr.'s movement taking players away as well. And Garcia would spot the moment that he could attack space created and got into the box at the far post. Great assist from Rodrigo. And they won out. And so giving Vinicius Jr. that freedom transitionally will always be an amazing component to have. It's just about getting that balance right, and it's something that Xabi Alonso has to do, otherwise it could kill him. But slowly throughout the game, tried different things, and I think he found something that worked. But full credit to Garcia. And so this will be a learning experience for Xabi Alonso. This is why the Club World Cup, I think, will help him, because it gives him the opportunity to try things against a half-decent, at least, level of opposition. So it gives him more preparation for La Liga when that comes around. But teething pains, still things to work on. Again, players to come back, and we'll see how it develops. But let me know what you guys think. I'd love to hear it. In a bit, lads.